Jeremy Oliver sitting here with Jeremy Muller, and we've just been walking around the vineyards here at Peccavi Estate and climbing up and down the many hills, Jeremy, that
Yes.
constitute your remarkable property here. So we figured we've earned a beer, and what we're going to talk about actually is your story. I had been getting my book, The Australian Wine Annual, printed in Singapore for a number of years, and those occasions I would go along for 4 or 5 days to allegedly supervise the binding process turned into quite a reasonable eating and drinking festival each year for 4 or 5 days, lunch and dinner. And it was through this that I had met Jeremy, and look, we'd become good mates after about 4 or 5 years. And then one day, I think it was a Sunday, we were walking after a lunch somewhere in the centre of Singapore, and you said, "Stop, I want to show you something." Pulled out of, I think it was a briefcase, Jeremy, 2 wine glasses and a bottle of wine, and you suggested I taste the glass of wine that you'd poured, and I said, "Wow." And you, I think, might have said, "What is it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what it is, but I think it seems a bit like a Shiraz from Western Australia. Whose is it?" And Jeremy said, "Oh, it's his." He said, "It's my wine." I said, "Bullshit." Known him for 5 years. He's never once mentioned it. I'm a wine writer, for heaven's sake. And we'd had so many wines together over the years. I said, "No way." And he got a little bit defensive. He said, yeah. I've got this vineyard in Margaret River." I said, "Oh, cut it out." And he said, "No, I've bought it and I've been working on it and I've improved it and I've got these top guys making the wine for me." Eventually he pulled out the bottle, and yeah, sure enough, it was this label, Peccavi. And it was a Shiraz, and terrific wine. And I had no idea. So tell it, bring people up to speed. You were in the money market, finance market in Singapore.
27 years in the money markets. So the name Peccavi came from. Mm-hmm. I have sinned. I figured after 27 years in foreign exchange that seemed fairly appropriate. And then the second label was No Regrets. But 27 years in FX. I bought this with still probably about 10 years to go. I was looking at something to do after the market. So I wanted something tangible. You're in a job where everything was measured about how much money you made at the end of the day, and there was nothing. You went into work each morning with nothing. You left at the end of the day with nothing other than knowing what money you made, which was great financially, but it's not in a rewarding. There was no sense, no satisfaction there. No, exactly. And so I wanted to do something more tangible. So I thought about farming. So I was looking. I actually originally looked all over the world at different types of farming. Something that would be interesting to me. I was thinking about trout farming because I love fly fishing. I did all sorts of ideas, and then I thought, well, I drink a lot of wine, and I thought it'd be fairly appropriate to sort of average down and sort of make my own. So that was it. So I thought, okay, well, then I started looking at sort of great wine regions around the world, and I started looking at all different places.
And if I could interrupt here, your background, your father.
Oh,
he's very strong in this regard.
He's a big influence in this whole thing. So he, brought me up drinking a lot of wine at home, like from an early age. Probably in Australia it would be illegal, in the UK it wasn't. But and we would drink pretty much any white wine would be a white Burgundy, so Chardonnay. Any red wine would be nearly always Bordeaux. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was I got into this sort of an idea. These are the wines I really liked, and sort of literally some of the best Chardonnays in the world obviously are from Burgundy, if not the best, and sort of Bordeaux makes obviously that great style. And so I was like, right, okay. Started looking at, I say, wine regions, and then it was like, for me, what I really like, sort of Napa Valley and then Margaret River would have been the most ideal. But I did look at, I looked in New Zealand, I looked in the UK. I went through all old Roman vineyard maps, trying to get an idea, because with global warming, parts of the UK we're seeing temperatures rise. Although now we're talking about maybe the Gulf Stream might disappear and temperatures are going to fall, so who knows. But anyway, it's, we were looking in the UK, and it was like trying to figure out areas decided against that. Italy, I couldn't quite understand the legal side of things, so it's like I didn't want anywhere where I didn't understand the local laws and stuff. France, to do anything at the highest level, you have to buy a classified. So much money, and this was the same in Napa, very, very expensive. So then I was like looking at different areas, Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand, for me, Sauvignon Blanc is not what I would like to do full time, because I drink a lot.
You drink Silex.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you can get it.
Yeah, when you can get it. Yeah, but then I was looking into Margaret River. So what happened was I used to work in Tokyo in the early 90s, and where you had in Hong Kong and Singapore the Bordelais, the Burgundians, all going over showing their wares, trying to sort of get Asia to sort of start on the bandwagon. Because if you think back to sort of 1991, you could buy a first growth Bordeaux for £25 a bottle.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't really start changing until sort of late 90s. Yes. 95, 96 is when the prices started rising. They didn't go through £100 barrier until 2001, I think it was. You know, so then they just went like this. But before that, it was very reasonable. But the French spent a lot of time going to sort of Southeast Asia, and then Japan was more difficult. I think with the language barriers of everything else, it was just a more difficult place to go to, because Singapore and Hong Kong, everyone speaks English. To go to Tokyo was trickier, but with the Australian markets, I think they found it easier because they didn't have the competition from the French. So what happened was, in the early 90s in Tokyo, you met Dennis from Lewin, you met Diana from Cullen, you met the Mosswood guys. Every one of the Margaret River, the early people, they were over there, and I got to go to all these wine tastings. And I was like, these things are amazing. And suddenly I was seeing wines that, the rest of the world hadn't heard about, really. Margaret River. An interesting example on that was, I was talking to a guy who is the second largest privately owned wine distribution company in America, a little while ago. And I was talking to him about, can we get some of the wines over there? After an hour of talking to this guy about everything, he's like, so where is this Margaret River? Yeah, and it's like, not even heard of it. It's like, and so that's the difficulty of what it is. But so a lot of people just don't know these things. But with Margaret River and Japan, they really sort of pushed it, and there's a very strong Aussie influence over there as well. So I was very lucky to sort of be there, see that, try all the great wines, and then I was like, right, okay, let's look at Margaret River. So I started looking around, and eventually I found this place.
Wow. And what was here? What did you buy when you bought this place?
Originally, I bought that old shed just over there, which, as you can see, is still there right now, and the vineyard.
You mean? Yeah.
Oh, for the moment, yeah, with the new Celador winery is going to go. Yeah, so the vineyard was here, but in a very different thing. What we've done a lot of narrowing of rows. Anything where we're replanting or anything, we've narrowed the rows to high density planting. We've changed a lot of the vines. Mm-hmm. So we've got probably one of the bigger clonal selections now in the region. Yeah, no, so we got some really great clones. We've got it, and we just moved anything that wasn't doing very well. We've changed anything that was sort of just not happy with. We tweaked and going from there.
So and this was associated with a particular brand before you bought it?
Not really. It was a commercial vineyard, but it used to sell to Brooklyn Valley, which at that time, quite a few years ago, Brooklyn Valley was one of the higher...
Oh, it was a top label.
It was a top label, and then it sort of changed when it went more commercial, but it was at that time one of the best in the country.
Yeah, absolutely true. So what was it about, the property here that makes it the extraordinary site it is? So obviously there's not a single flat spot here.
No.
It's just rolling hills.
Yeah, it's rolling hills, and also if you can see here the gravel, it's the whole property is this gravel loamy soils, which is what everybody wants in Margaret River. So we're very lucky. Apparently part of this used to be the old Shire gravel pit. Oh. So it's like the perfect soils that people want for growing vines here in Margaret River, and we're at the highest point in Margaret River, so we have this breeze you can feel right now coming through all the time, which cools down two aspects of Margaret River that make it so good and was becoming like the preeminent wine region in Australia, is that we have these uniform soils, and most of the top vineyards are all on this ridge that goes all the way south through Williabrup, which is just the other side of those hills, down then towards Margaret River. And this ridge line goes all the way down. There's all these soils all the way.
So in other words, you've got this huge property, and it is big for this region, and it's undulating.
Yep.
So normally, in another vineyard, you would expect several changes of soil type.
No, we're pretty much uniform.
Wow.
Gravel loams throughout the whole place, which is amazing.
Absolutely astonishing.
No, it is amazing. So, and now again, you can really feel this breeze. And what it is bringing cool air from the Indian Ocean down through towards Geograph Bay, the ocean you can see there in the distance. And because that's like shallow, warmer water. And so during the day you get the cool air coming through, and at night you get some of the sort of warmer air coming over the other way.
Gosh, amazing. So you've also, because you've got this site and because you've got so many clones and of the classic varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, you've probably got
Malbec.
And you've got this real spread of classics. There's no unnecessary grape here, no crazy grape, but in terms of the classic styles that you're seeking to make,
Yeah.
which are French inspired. So you've got the ability, A, to be able to look at the nature of the specific site within the vineyard and match it to a variety. But you've also, we were talking earlier about the fact with grapes like Cabernet, you can put Cabernet on pretty well facing every single direction.
Correct, and all on hillsides, which is, so many, as you know, so many of the world's great there are. The hillsides helps the drainage, everything like that.
Correct.
So we can choose, and we have it on multiple angles, and this is, again, gives us stuff to work with for blending and everything like that. And that's why, at different price points as well, our wines.
I guess on certain seasons, some will do better than others.
Correct.
And you're able to, from within a single estate, maintain a level of consistency that is very rare for a single property. And I've found this, if you look at your Cabernets, what was the first release?
2007.
Okay, from the very first release of 2007 until the current release, which is the 2019, there is incredible house consistency. There is a house stamp, even
Absolutely.
though you've made some significant changes by being some of the first in Australia to bring in some of these new clones of Cabernet and Merlot in particular. There is a house stamp. That's a Peccavi wine, and this site is talking. I think now you're reaping the benefit of that early thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's astonishing. So look, we're going to close this part of the chat about Jeremy's journey in Peccavi now, and come back a little later and pick it up and see where Jeremy intends to take this brand into the future.